Hello, everybody. Welcome to the MTG Homebrew Network podcast. Today, we are coming to you with audio. No video today, as we are still working on a new setup at our new place. And we'll talk more about that in the future, probably in a vlog. But we're here. We've been here for a little while. We're still getting set up, though. And we want to make sure we have a nice little place for y'all to see before we show you how the chicken nugget's made, more or less. And today we are talking about decks we used to play, otherwise known as retired decks. We're going to the old folks' home. I'm joined today by Alex.
That's me.
And Kyle.
What's going on?
And I'm Ryan, and I think I already said that. But first, we have a card of the day brought to you by Alex.
Yeah, so today's card of the day, one of my favorites, one that I play in one of my favorite decks, it's called Cindervines. It is an enchantment out of, is that Ravnica?
That's Ravnica Allegiance.
Ravnica Allegiance.
Mm-hmm.
It's a red and a green for an enchantment that says whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, Cindervines deals 1 damage to that player. It also has pay 1, sacrifice Cindervines, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Cindervines deals 2 damage to that permanent's controller. I think this card's crazy for the rate. I think chip damage, while not necessarily in Commander, but in a lot of other formats, is really powerful and can really take someone by surprise. Plus, any little dinky enchantment or artifact that has a sacrifice clause to destroy like really anything, no matter what the target is also very, very powerful to just have on the back burner, ready for when you need it.
This is like the sideboard card to end all sideboard cards. It covers like so many bases and doesn't take up like too many spots. Because if you put like 2 of these in your sideboard, you're covering like the artifact decks, Enchantress,
Storm decks,
Boggles, Burn as well, and it like just annihilates like a whole bunch of decks for just a 2-mana enchantment in your sideboard. Mm-hmm. And enchantments, I've always kind of said, are like the hardest permanents to deal with because like not every color has things to deal with that.
I agree.
And this is a very like strange color for enchantments. It's very out of left field.
Mm-hmm.
The ability to just hold it over someone's neck. The ability to just say, you can play whatever you want, but understand that I'm always going to leave my 1 random mana lying around. And if I don't like it, like, gone. You try to pop off, gone.
Yeah.
So,
it's like, even... Sorry, go ahead.
And just like the 1 mana. Like, it's just never a problem just to leave that 1 mana up at the end of your turn.
Yeah. Even having this in your main board, like, it's always going to do something. Mm-hmm. And it says opponent, not player.
Yeah.
So like there's no cost to you running this in your deck except for the fact that it doesn't like, well, it does kill them, it deals damage to them. It just does everything. It's like Umezawa's GD, but the sideboard card, you know?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Any other thoughts?
I mean, I think we said everything. I love the whole Gruul non-creature hate. I think it's a really fun theme. I mean, obviously I've played it for years now because it's so fun. And it's just really neat to get these little cards that I feel like I'd never see anywhere, but they have such a big impact for such a low cost, and it's so flavorful.
Yeah. What decks do you play this in, or have you played it in?
I really just play it in Ruakthar because it is just kind of like a baby Ruakthar, as Kyle said earlier. With the 1 damage, and especially if you can play this early and then get Ruakthar out, you don't have to worry about casting a spell and taking 6 damage to destroy someone's like value piece. Mm-hmm. It's essentially free once you cast it before Ruakthar, which is really handy.
Neat. Well, that's an awesome card. Thank you for bringing that to the table today.
Yeah, pretty sick. We like that.
So, speaking of decks we used to play or have played in, today's topic is we're going to talk about decks we used to play or still play, but maybe have evolved from previous decks. For various reasons, we all kind of have decks that we put on the back burner. We get to a point where we can't fix it anymore, and it just doesn't evolve with the game. I feel like it's a very common thing for players to run into. So we're just kind of opening the time capsule and looking at some of the decks in time. Would either of you like to kick one off?
How about you do it, Alex? I'm
Sure.
still tinkering.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all good. So I have a deck that in our playgroup has been infamous for a very long time, which is my Yidris Commander deck. Yidris is a 5/4 with trample for a blue, a red, a black, and a green. And he says whenever Yidris deals combat damage to a player, spells in your hand until the end of the turn gain Cascade. So you basically go right to your combat on your turn, swing, hopefully get in, and then you cast a whole bunch of nonsense in your post-combat main phase. This deck was very tuned. This was my competitive deck for a very, very long time. Basically, you just play all the sort of stuff to make the most out of your cascades. So you play a really high curve, but a very linear curve, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So you can cast really big spells and have a very good chance of hitting the vast majority of spells in your deck off the top of your library. Played a lot of extra turn stuff, played a lot of untapping your land stuff to cast more and more things. And yeah, it was kind of a storm deck. It didn't really play any storm cards because you couldn't reliably get a huge storm count in one turn. But eventually, at its most powerful, it became a deck where once Yidris got in for damage and the game had been going long enough, you would kind of just win as long as you got that cascade trigger. And it's similar to a lot of decks that I've made where it's very commander-centric. Game plan is get Yidris on the field as fast as possible, get in for combat damage as soon as possible, and then figure it out from there. I stopped playing this deck because, well, for a couple of reasons. Because of that commander-centric build that I build a lot of the time with my decks, and especially with Yidris being such a critical combo piece to make the deck run, it kind of just turns into a mini game of like the rest of the table removing Yidris, or countering him, and just kind of policing my board, which just eventually, after you play enough games like that, it's not fun for anybody. Like, everybody's just expending all their removal on you, and you don't get to play your commander very often because he is literally just the way you win. So your opponents can't even like feel bad about it because you have to remove Yidris on site because he is just too fast and too good.
Yeah. It's one of those like this could be the worst thing at the table, even if it isn't. It's it's like an infamous kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Like players see Prosh, the 6-mana dragon, and they're like, "Oh, food chain, cool, I'll kill you."
Yeah, pretty much.
It sucks because you can have a cool build. Like there was this one player at LGS that I would go to who did like a Yidris lands build. Ooh. And people who would play with him know like, okay, he's not going to win in one turn. This is a player who's going to like take the time and make the game go longer and get the value that way. But whenever someone new would join the table, he would have like a terrible time trying to convince them that, oh no, it's not going to be a storm deck, I swear.
Yeah. There's stigma behind it.
Yeah. Stigma's a good word for it. Yeah.
Yeah. And especially the way I built it, because it was it's one of those decks that had a very long lineage. It started off as an Intet the Dreamer deck, and then it was a Maelstrom Wanderer deck, and then it turned into Yidris. And again, it wasn't like a storm deck that is going to try and win in one turn once you can get combat in. Mm-hmm. It had to screw around with extra turns and board wipes and other things. So especially if you couldn't win fast, it just was turned into a slog fest, and just like, I have to resolve these extra turns because I think I can win, but I don't have like a loop or anything that I can demonstrate to say I absolutely win right now.
Yeah.
A lot of playing stuff, a lot of figuring out along the way.
Yeah, which is fun until you have to like kind of play solitaire.
I was gonna say,
yeah,
it's a lot of like you do one thing, like you do the combat thing, and then if that happens, you get to take 20 minutes to just like cast a bunch of spells, and that doesn't even win you the game sometimes.
Yeah. It's a big game of if, I've always noticed with Idris, because it's all reliant on that combat damage trigger, and even if you can get through board wipes, even if you can get protection, even if you can dodge removal if opponents don't have it, like if I have 6 1/1s, I have no reason to attack with them. I'm just don't attack me. I will block it. It's like, hey, can I get in for damage? You cannot get in for damage. I will kill it.
Yeah.
And when you have a few other opponents doing the same thing, sometimes it could just be like we're all button heads. You know?
He has trample too. You can't even like block profitably against this. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. And then going back to the way I built the deck, I wanted to build the deck in such a way that I would always cascade into answers for things. And so I would cascade into removal or more resources, which is really good in the sense that the deck had a lot of, it was a big toolbox and you can sort of try and fish for the stuff you needed. But if you were getting the wrong things and you were just like cascading into removal spells and you're like, well, I don't really have any huge targets that are a threat to me right now. I guess I'll just blow up some rocks, or I'll like draw a couple cards here and there. And sometimes the deck would play like really powerful spells, but it would just kind of dirtle and you still wouldn't have like a clear line of winning.
Especially if you do like one big thing or two big things and then it doesn't result in any, like, it's a bunch of cool stuff, it doesn't result in any like board changing. And then you pass and you have all your lands are tapped and Yidris is tapped. And then it's just like, Yidris might just get removed because now I'm tapped out, and then it's like gotta rebuild the whole thing again, you know? Yeah,
and you can't play a whole lot of interaction because you don't want to cascade into a counterspell. That's a waste of your turn, and you just gotta pass and feel bad.
Yeah.
So it didn't play like any counterspells. It played like some removal, but not like a ton. Because again, cascading into that, you have to depend on there being not only valid but also good targets on board, or else you just cast it on something stupid, or you just put it back to the bottom and hope you get it again later.
Yeah. It's a good one.
Yeah.
It was a ton of fun to play, but eventually it just kind of got old.
Yeah.
And also, like, as we have progressed and made better and better and better decks, like my Talrand deck used to be the most powerful, crazy thing. Now it's like the lowest deck on my totem pole.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Did you any parting thoughts on Idris?
I think the last thing is a big part of, I guess, why I and we and players in general retire decks is like your player group will get wise to what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Yep.
Like I stopped playing it because the people I played with knew how powerful it was, and they would just like slot in more removal, and I would just literally never get to play Idris, which again is a perfectly fair reaction to the card, but still ended up not being fun.
Yeah. End of the day, you want to play Magic, and end of the day, it's like end of the day Magic. So
yeah. Wow. Thank you for talking about Idris.
Of course.
Yeah, it was a good time.
You know, it had been a while since I'd seen the ogre.
Seen the
and I hadn't considered like, oh yeah, there's considerable reason why maybe he's in the vault. Anywho, Kyle, you brought up not Tyam, Talrand. Did you want to talk about Talrand?
Not really. I want to talk about Wart.
Oh, please.
Is it my turn?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So there's this card called Wart Bogart Auntie. So she's your classic Goblin Tribal deck. And when you think of Goblin Tribal, you think of Kranko. Because that's just the Goblin King. You know, he does everything Goblins wants to do, but it's mono red. I was like, I want to play Goblins, but I want to play more than one color. And there were a few options. You could play Gruul, or you could play Rakdos. And Rakdos is like a color combination that's like kind of near and dear to my heart. I used to play a lot of Rakdos. It's like hard. There's not a lot of acceleration. There's utility, but like, I don't know. I feel like it's one of those like weird guild colors, if that makes sense. And Wart Bogart Auntie, so she's 2 mana and a black and a red, so she's 4. And she has Menace, and she's a 3/3, and it says, at the beginning of your upkeep, return a Goblin card from your graveyard to your hand. Now, so niche, so specific, because Lorwyn was all about stuff like that. It's all about tribal support. It specifically says Goblin card. So if you find like a tribal instant or a tribal enchantment, anything that has the word goblin, not like in its text, but what was that? Super text, like the types?
Yeah, it's
Something
type.
like that. Subtype. Anything with that. So I had some examples. My favorite way to play Wart was at the beginning of your upkeep, return a goblin card. So you can like play a goblin, sack it. Goblins like to do their thing and then leave. They're expendable. And then the next turn, if you have Wart, you just say, I'm just going to get it right back. So we got Goblin Matron. End of the battlefield, go get a goblin. Anything you want. Kiki Jiki, Pashlik, Siege Gang Commander, anything you want. And then you block with it, you sack it, you do whatever. And then the next turn, you're like, okay, I'm going to return Goblin Matron and just do it again.
Yeah.
But there is this card called Warren Weirding. It's a black and a colorless. It's a tribal sorcery, and it's a goblin sorcery, so you can get it off them. Target player sacrifices a creature. If a goblin is sacrificed this way, that player puts 2 1/1 black goblin creature tokens into play with haste. It says target player, and it says sacrifice. So it doesn't say destroy. It doesn't say target a creature. Every single turn, I can just say, you have a scary creature. I'm going to return this sacrifice spell and just make you do it again and do it again. And versus Voltron players, not a fun time.
Oh, yeah.
Not a fun time. Because it's like, okay, I can get more goblins out of my graveyard. I can do this, I can do that. Or I can just get this and make you not have a creature.
Yeah.
But the deck was so much fun because you weren't playing traditional goblins. You were playing black-red goblins. And you get to play all the cool Lorwyn stuff. Modern Horizons came out. What was that one? 4 mana and it's battlefield with 2 goblins.
Oh, Sling Gang.
Sling Gang Lieutenant. Like, such a good card. I retired the deck because it was, I don't want to say like a little slow. It was a little like you have to win through massing crazy amount of goblins or doing Kiki Jiki stuff. Mm-hmm. And Kiki Jiki is such a fun card. It's a goblin, it's tutorable, but at the end of the day, you're just doing Kiki Jiki stuff, But I went to a tournament at school through Gamers because, what a great time Gamers was.
Yeah.
We love Gamerfield.
Yeah.
Everyone went to this table and they're like, okay, we're not bringing out our highest powered decks, but we're all playing good decks. We're not this isn't going to be a sweaty game. And I was like, okay, I think Wart really fits that category. And I kept hand and it was 5 lands, a mana rock, and a tutor spell, something like that. And I was like, this isn't crazy, but this is so keepable. And I was just land, pass. I got Wart out on turn 4, immediately got killed. And then I was like, okay, now I got to play Wart again. And then someone just won. And it was Wart needs some time to set up, get some stuff in the graveyard, chip damage here, this, that, and the other. And for that instance, and then our play group, sometimes it wasn't I don't want to say fast enough, but it was I don't know. I had a really, really, really fun time with it though. It was good.
Wart I could see being printed as a pre-con goblin commander today.
I can see that.
It would be not the face card, but in the deck as a secondary.
As another option, yeah.
Yeah. Because it's such a a not goblin thing to do to return resources.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You use your deck from your deck as expendable, and then your graveyard builds up, and
that's it.
And that's it. That's the mono red thing.
Mm-hmm.
But adding black to that, you get crazy cards like Living End and
anything that returns all of them, yeah.
Yeah. Stuff like that, is what the Goblin deck wants to do, but it makes it, worse, quote unquote, because you're not, drawing goblins and you're not, I don't know. It's mostly gas, some breaks,
Mm-hmm.
Even if it is more consistent where you're getting things on the battlefield. I don't know.
It was so sick because black just offered so much utility.
Oh, yeah.
We got Buried Alive, Entomb, tutor spells, all the really good removal that black offers. And Buried Aliving and just putting Goblin Matron for the future, Kiki Jiki, Siege Gang Lieutenant, Trash Master if someone has artifacts on the battlefield. Just put anything you want in your graveyard and then say, next turn, I just get it back. And being able to constantly do different things or constantly do the same thing over and over and over again because you just return the same card. Mm-hmm. Very, very fun.
Also, I think it's critical to mention that you stopped playing this deck before Dockside Extortionist was printed.
Yep.
Yes.
Because that would have changed. That would have changed the whole.
That would have just been. It would have just been a Dockside deck.
Exactly.
Because you play Dockside every turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good point because I never had Dockside in that deck for the longest time. Yeah.
I think this whole, it is a it's not a quote unquote true goblin deck, even though it is playing goblin tribal. It could be like a more value-based aristocrat kind of goblin where you're not trying to make like a giant board. You just have creatures that want to enter the battlefield and then die and then come back as like a recursion thing.
Yeah.
But the goblin deck has the like its best creatures are the aggro creatures like Rabble Master, which is tough for commander because you're up against 120 life
More points.
Yeah, it's tough. And I feel like you can get into situations with this specific deck where it is good, where you're not doing the aggro thing because you can do like recursive things.
Yeah. It was always an aggro deck. It was always lords. It was always how many goblins can I get to swing and then sack. But like if you do like a true aristocrats where it's like just you utilize being able to bring it back, I mean that seems pretty good.
I feel like there's like splash pieces you could put in there, like Macias the Unhallowed. Just like,
That's funny.
like crazy things that don't have anything to do with goblins, but are just like nuts for the deck.
They can bring them back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
so
not
funny.
humans.
They have Undying. And you get the Persist Goblin too. You can do infinite sack triggers.
That's true.
Yeah.
If I ever take this deck out of the vault, I'm just so afraid because if I did, why is it not just Turbo Dockside? You know? Because that's just like
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like the play style that I would want like the deck to be, but at the same rate, it's like too good not to do, you know?
It doesn't have to be, and it's not good all the time. Like, getting it to CEDH recently, there are a bunch of games where you just have Dockside in your hand and no one has like a mana rock.
Anything, yeah.
Yeah.
Like one player's playing green and they have Collector Oof on the table, and then no one wants to play any of their rocks because they don't do anything. Or waste
They
their
don't do
mana.
anything, yeah.
It's fucked.
Yeah.
I don't know. No, Ward seems like a sweet side grade to goblins.
I always had a fun time playing it, and like, while sometimes it comboed off, like, you know, I mean, it was mostly because of Kiki Jiki, but like, any deck has the capacity to do that. I feel like when I played that deck, it was like not like, I'm going to go hard and I'm going to be so sweaty deck. It was kind of like a deck I could just like pull out and I know I'm going to have fun no matter what I do, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it really has a good home in like a casual table, or if you're playing a casual game. I think it's always a great time because, like you said, you have a couple combo pieces in that deck, but it was never like a hardcore combo deck. You would just, play goblins. They're silly, they're fun.
Not to mention, like even if you wanted to go for like the whole combo, you would have to have tutor spells to get those, let alone get them in the graveyard to get back. If it's so, it was like even if you wanted to go for it, you were still putting a lot of effort into doing it, which is disruptible, which is stopped, like stuff like that.
Well, especially because, like you talked about, building up your resources, building up your graveyard. That deck wants those like 8 to 10 to 12 turn games where it can really, sort of build up and then become a force later in the game.
Yeah. Goblins are sick. There's it's not War and Instigator. It's 2 mana and it's a 1/1, but it enters with a goblin. Enters with a buddy.
Oh, I know what card you're talking about.
We can even just say Beetleback Chief because that's 4, but it enters with 2.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is cool, right? But at the end of the day, you're playing Commander, 120 life. It's just 3 1/1s. Those are practically 3 chunk blockers, and that was my whole turn. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
it's tough. I feel like that's a it's the opposite of Elves, where Elves has the ability to push through that damage because it plays things like Crater Hoof. But there's no Goblin Crater Hoof. Thank fucking God.
Yeah.
oh my God.
There's like Shattergang Bros where you can do a similar playstyle where you like have the Aristocrats thing going on, and then you also have green, where it could be a Goblin deck, but then you're not doing you're doing even less Goblin things by adding more colors.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Not to go off on a tangent, it could be a topic for another day, but one deck that's always been in the back of my mind when I think of goblins is just Brutaclad Goblins. Because you just take one Lord and in the infinite ways of blue to make one copy of a Lord. Now you have, what is it? Goblin War Chief, haste and +1/+1.
Yep.
Anything like that. And now you have 9 +1/+1 Lords. And then you just swing.
Yeah, it seems really good. You just play blue for the utility, but it's just 3/4 red deck.
It's just goblins, yeah. So
a super duper side tangent. I also had a Goblin deck that was about making tokens, but wasn't blue. It was the other wart, the green red one with
love green red wart.
What's the ability? Conspire.
Conspire, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I would just do there's 100 million instants and sorceries that make 1/1 red goblins, like Krenko's Command and stuff like that, and you just get to copy them because that's it is what it is. And then you play a Lord and you have twice as much power for 3 mana.
Yeah.
It's a cool idea.
Now, Conspire says tap them, right?
Yep.
I mean, do you just play like Vitalize and untap all of them?
Yeah.
And then like do more stuff?
You sure can.
That's easy.
Play
playing-
Seedborn Muse.
Cryptolith, and
Oh, Cryptolith, right? We love that card.
Earthcraft.
Yeah.
So that's good because you're not playing as many forests, but it's it's still good.
Whatever.
Well, good stuff though. I'm really happy with Wart. I think they have a deserving spot on the shelf. Maybe we'll bust her out again someday, but who knows?
Quick tangent. Also, I feel like this could easily be a pre-DH deck, which we haven't talked about much. Pre-DH is just Commander up until they started making Commander products, because some people liked it the other way, myself included. So everything up until New Phyrexia is legal. So you lose a lot of stuff that was printed recently, but you don't run into stuff like Dockside,
Yeah.
True.
And you do get
Removal's a lot more fair.
Yeah, and a bunch of the best goblins came out before New Phyrexia anyways, like Goblin Wizard and Warren Instigator, stuff like that. Goblin Naki.
Yeah.
No Muxus, though.
Oh,
Damn.
that's a whole other can of worms.
Anywho,
What do you got, Ryan?
moving on. I want to talk about a deck that I don't like. And I don't play it anymore because I don't like it. And it makes me mad. It's, first of all, it was a gift originally from Matt.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to Matt.
We
if
love
you're
Matt.
listening, thank you so much. We love you.
Yeah.
I loved this deck when you gave it to me, and I just made it infinitely less fun to play because I wanted to make it better.
Yeah, it's your fault.
Yeah,
It was
it
your
is
fault.
my
It was your
fault.
fault.
It's all my fault. It's Curses. Curses is an Enchantress build that is just a terrible bastard. How do I put this? I hate the idea. It's called lightning rod theory. I think I've talked about it on here before, but it's like you play things that make you a target, and then you need to back up those things by like being able to take the heat from playing them. This is a deck that can't do that.
Yeah.
Because you play a curse on someone, they get mad at you, and then you're tapped out.
Yep.
Because they all cost 5. So I built it in a way. Originally, it was with Mathis, the Fiend Seeker. So you would put like bounty counters on people's creatures, and people would get rid of them for you. And I was like, okay, this is pretty neat. You draw cards when people get rid of other things. You keep the board look nice and clearer, and you draw cards as a like a means of recursion. Then Commander's Legends came out, and that Commander Legends. That was the supplemental set with like a whole ton of commanders.
Yeah, that was the first D&D set, wasn't it?
No, the one before that like
little shield symbol.
yeah, they reprinted the original partners in the shimmery kind.
Yes.
What's its name? Gen. Ghen is a 3 mana Mardu creature, so it's the same mana cost as Mathis.
Yes.
Reads it's a 1/2 with pay Mardu, so red, black, white, sacrifice an enchantment, return an enchantment from your graveyard to the battlefield.
There it is.
You're in Mardu, so you're not playing Omniscience. So the next logical thing to
Next
do
best thing.
curses, right? You just put a bunch of curses into play for way less mana. And originally when Gen was printed, I was so excited because I was like, oh, this deck is going to be so sick now. I don't have to pay for overwhelming splendor, and I don't have to like figure out a way to get it on the battlefield. Otherwise, I can just like put it in the graveyard and then reanimate it with Gen. And this brought the deck to, like I said, the point where it's like, this isn't even like fun anymore. I'm just making people mad. And listen, it's very funny to cast Replenish and put all of your curses on one player, and when they untap, they just die.
Because they can't do
Just
anything.
explode.
They can't do anything. They have to like discard a card. They lose 10 life. It's a funny thing to have happen once. But the amount of serotonin that you get from doing something like that more than one time to a person, I feel like is not worth the mental strain of having to worry about if they like you or not.
It plateaus very quickly.
Yeah. So I had this deck. I had it built for a long time. It didn't cost a lot to put together because I would just like, if I wanted my Wheel of Fortune in it, I would just take it out of whatever deck I had it in and just like, this was a side piece kind of thing. And now I have no drive to play this deck because I don't think it's fun.
It's probably good in a 1v1.
It's insane in a 1v1 because you just put like a ghostly prison on the battlefield. They can't like hit you unless they pay a ton of mana. You have smothering, like all the good like tax, stacks, and curses just to make their day terrible. But this isn't something I would want to do to my friend.
Yeah.
I would bring this to like a big tournament and like kind of meme on someone, but also I wouldn't want to do that because, like I said, lightning rod theory, you like put a target on your head by playing this deck, and you don't have the resources to back it up because you're not playing like blue.
Yeah,
you can't like counter anything. People are just going to do what they want to you through the curses, basically.
And like you said earlier, a lot of the good curses, they're expensive.
They are. Yeah.
What is Splendor? Is that 7 or 8 mana?
8.
8? It's a lot of mana.
It does like remove them from the game because all other creatures are 1/1s with no abilities and they can't use planeswalker abilities or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. It's tough. And I've been under the Splendor. It's like it's a real rough thing, especially when you also have Curse of Death's Hold and give all your creatures -1/-1. You can't play any more creatures and you can't like do anything.
Yeah.
So, shit. And there's a certain nuance and want for players to play stacks pieces. I feel like people want to play stacks, and that's why they do. They like the idea of presenting hoops for people to jump through while getting value around them. But curses aren't good stacks pieces because they affect one person at a time. Mm-hmm. There's one person who's mad at you, and then there's 2 other people who are like, well, I don't want that to happen to me.
Yeah.
I just watched a crime happen. I don't want that to happen to me.
Gotta get out of here.
Yeah, I don't like this guy.
I could see them down the road making like a mix of make it like a battle. How that's a completely different new type of card.
Yeah.
Mixed with a curse, mixed with a world enchantment. Where it's like an enchantment and it's just like curse or this card affects all of your opponents. So it was like a curse, but it affected each of your opponents you control instead of all players.
See, that's the thing, is those exist. They're just enchantments that like affect everyone. Mm-hmm. Like what's that card whenever you draw a card your opponents mill to?
Oh, Psychic Corrosion.
Yeah. Psychic Corrosion is a perfect example of a curse that isn't a curse.
Yeah.
It just affects everyone equally based on your actions. Mm-hmm. As opposed to your action affecting one person at a time a lot. Mm-hmm. And that, I feel like, is a way better design of curses, where it's something that you put on the table that affects either everyone or all of your opponents. If it, like, excluded, like, the owner of this card kind of thing, I think that's a better way to do curses. Because I feel like they are just a 1v1 kind of thing that is slow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also got to play cool cards like, what's that card? Academy Rector.
That card's cool.
Yeah, there's nuance to like making it die and putting the best enchantment on the battlefield from that. And there was also like the Witch that does the same thing, except for it's only a curse card. Because I was playing other enchantments in the deck, like I said, like Ghostly Prison and Sphere of Safety and stuff like that. It just needs to be in the vault. I don't ever really want to return to it. They also, as a side tangent, they made that...
Talking about the Grixis one?
I was going to say the Grixis commander, who also dealt with curses.
Yeah.
But I didn't really look into it, because I already knew that the deck was going to be kind of...
it's very finicky.
Yeah.
It was something like, when you play a curse, you can put it on yourself, but then at your upkeep, you can move an enchantment you control to someone else, and then if you do, draw 2 cards.
Yep.
So it's almost like you like give yourself the curse, and then you have to wait. But if you can move it to someone else, you get a huge reward because of it. Yeah. Something like that.
See, that just seems like too many hoops to jump through to draw 2 cards.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've drawn 2 cards for less.
Although that is a deck you can play...
Frank Sanity?
No, the blue enchantment that gives you 2 upkeeps.
Paradox.
Oh, Paradox Haze. Yeah.
I'm always looking for excuses to play that card.
Yeah, it's a cool card. I agree. Listen. That is a space to explore that I don't think I want to. By all means, listener or my present company, do it. You look into it. I'm all right.
You go for it.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'll happily watch from afar with some popcorn.
Yeah. moving on. I think I'm ready to stop talking about this piece of shit.
Sure.
Alex, would you like to talk about another deck?
Yeah. Deck number 2. So I many years ago, I was sitting down, and even before that, in high school.
When I was born.
Yeah, so in the year of our Lord, 1997.
I was taking a drink.
But in high school, me and a couple buddies, we were like, Planeswalkers were really hitting their stride, really peaking with just the silly things they did before they were actually like game breaking. They were just like really, really good. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to play Planeswalker Commander. And we're like, whatever, we're not going to LGSs with this. We're just playing with each other. Sounds fun. So I made a Nicol Bolas Planeswalker deck. And if you don't know what Nicol Bolas Planeswalker does, he does many mean things. He makes people sacrifice permanents. He takes your permanents just forever. Mm-hmm. And then he has the ultimatum clause where your opponent loses 7, discards 5, and sacks 3 permanents, and then you do the opposite.
They discard 7 cards, sacrifice 7 permanents, and deal 7 damage to target player.
Oh, there it is.
For -9.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, this is a really mean card. I have to build a deck to match that energy. And so I built like the meanest deck I could, and it was okay. And then a couple years later in college, I sat down. This was right after the first partners were printed. Mm-hmm. And I thought, wow, it would really be fun to add white to this, because white has some really mean stuff. Elish Norn, Smothering Tithe, all that junk. And I went on Gatherer, and I looked up just any commander that fit the colors that I could just build around. And I looked up, typed it in, and I was like, oh, Brea. I don't really want to play Brea because not only am I not going to be committed to doing artifact things, Brea was like every other deck in the format at that point. And I was like, I want no part of bringing another Brea deck into the world.
Mm-hmm. Brea is like cracked.
For real.
Indeed.
And then I saw Vial Smasher and Ishai. I was like, this is great. I can play stupid big Grixis things and deal damage everywhere with Vial Smasher. And then Ishai is just there for the colors, and the Murder Bird gets big. And I started building this deck, and I was just looking for specifically advantage hate. Taking everything my opponents wanted to do, advancing their board state, drawing cards, ramping, everything they wanted to do in the game. And I wanted to either punish them for it or advance my own board state because of them trying to advance their board state. So I played a lot of like enchantments that would steal cards off the top of their library, exile them so I could play them, Atali-like effects, Smothering Tithe, of course, Consecrated Sphinx type things, just anything that can make my opponents have a worse day for just doing the very basic parts of Magic that make the game fun. And and in a 4-player game for a long time, the deck was great because you were like kind of the target sometimes, and you were sort of always in the game. You kind of sat in the background sometimes, but you always had something to do, and your board was always affecting the rest of the game, which is always a good time. But then eventually, as with Idris, it just kind of gets old. You kind of become the arch enemy every time, or you dirtle and don't play anything because all of your big mean things are big and just take a long time to get to. And then through no fault of the deck, this was all my fault. One day I was rehabbing the mana base, and I just forgot to put basic swamps in.
Oh.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, there were a lot of like multicolored lands. There were islands, mountains, and plains in there, but I forgot swamps. And I played a couple games, and I was like, there's no way I'm just not drawing any black mana. Like, I just could not get black mana for the life of me. And I looked, I was like, oh.
That's because I don't play any.
That's why.
Yeah.
And then I just never sat down to fix it. And I was like, that's okay. I can just I can just move on. I can build something else. This deck is getting a little tired.
I remember this. You had this when we were at Maple.
Mm-hmm.
This was your deck that had Armageddon
Yes.
in it. Because
this deck's got that combo.
Yeah.
I don't know if people know about that combo.
You float your mana and then play Armageddon. What combo are you talking about?
I'm talking about so I actually like took a play out of your book with Queen because of this, because it's so fucking mean and it's so fucking funny to watch.
Yeah.
So you go Armageddon, float all your mana, classic, and you just do Armageddon things, kill everyone's lands, and then you have a Smothering Tithe in the battlefield.
Oh yeah.
And now it's like whenever they draw, they have no mana, so you're just going to be making treasures always. But then you play Emergency Powers. Because you pay 7 mana with all the mana you have floating, and everyone is forced to draw that many cards, and now they have no lands, and you have 21 treasures. And if they don't scoop, you can now just continue to play everything from your hand until you get to a advantage to knock them out.
Yep.
Emergency Powers and Smothering Tide is a very fun combination.
Yeah, I'll never forget the one game where I had a Dragon Mage on the field, so deals combat damage, everybody wheels. I had a Smothering Tithe, and I had... Oh, what's that black-blue card that says whenever opponent...
Notion Thief.
Notion Thief.
Yep.
Notion Thief on the battlefield. So I swing in with Dragon Mage. I connect. No one draws any cards but me. So I draw 28 cards. I make 28 treasures. 21 treasures. Yeah. And then I cast Armageddon and everybody's lands are gone. And it's just I have... everything, everyone else has nothing, and let's shuffle up. Let's just go again.
Yeah, keep it going. I feel like you get to play all those like Notion Thief and like adjacent things. I just realized you can Smothering Tithe and Emergency Powers in the same draft because they were both from Ravnica Allegiance.
That's really cool.
What a time!
Yeah, what a time.
This episode, the set of the episode is Ravnica Allegiance. Shout outs to Cindervines.
What a card! What a set!
Yeah.
I drafted Allegiance.
Yeah,
that was very fun. That was it Cackling Drake?
Yeah,
two red, 2 blue.
Yep.
Yeah, very good.
Insane.
And similar to the Goblins deck that didn't have Dockside, and that changed a lot. Thank God I stopped playing that deck before Opposition Agent was printed.
Oh yeah,
that would be that deck's favorite card.
Oh yeah. There's a party that always wants to like play the mean cards. This brings me back to my Shieldred deck where I was just playing board wipes and Shieldred, where you just want to like, yeah, you can do it, but like you got friends, man.
Yeah, but at what cost?
Have a friend. These people like you enough to sit down and play a game with you, and you treat them this way.
Yeah,
man.
It really put it in perspective when I still had the Vile Smasher Ishai deck in paper, and we were playing online, and I was like, I really want to make this deck, but in different colors, because I want to really screw around with green, and I want to like see what I can do. And so I built Atla Advantage Hate, where I would just crack an egg and get like a Vorinclex off the top, or an Elish Norn off the top.
Yeah.
And I think I played that game like a couple times online, and I was like, I'm not even going to bother ordering this deck. It's fine where it is.
Yep. Yeah, might as well keep it digital.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that deck because I love that deck. I thought that deck was hilarious. Yeah. But Vile Smasher and Nishai, because this was back in like 2016, and not a lot of like crazy cards that we have now were out. So you were playing like the goofy stuff.
Yeah, the really silly things.
Do you remember Aethersworn Adjudicator?
Yes, I love Aethersworn Adjudicator.
That card was just like nightmare fuel. I was like, is he going to play it? And then he plays it in the most inopportune like moment for me. And I'm just like, and there it is.
And there it is. And I'm just going to start blowing your stuff up.
Yep.
Tell them about that one game we played on your porch. At your parents' house, me, you, and Brad.
Yeah.
Shout out to Brad. He couldn't be here today.
Yep.
We missed the man. The land tax. No, this was at Pleasant. The land tax hand.
Oh yeah, I had a hand with no lands and a land tax, and I was like, I don't really want to mulligan, because if I draw planes, this hand is fire. Like, this hand will take me places. And I was like, you know what? Why not? If I don't draw any lands by turn 5 or 6, someone else will be close to winning, and we'll just play again.
Yeah.
Go to my turn 1. rip a card off the top, it's a plains. And we are off
We're
to
in
the
there.
fucking races.
Had mana rocks, had like every just need that one land.
Just need that one land, and I actually got it.
Another good memory of that deck was the Vampire Hex Mage. That was the one on the porch.
Yeah, we were playing one time and I was just absolutely dirtling. I had nothing to do, and then I started the game with a Mystic Remora. And I was like, I really have just nothing to do. So I'm just going to keep the Remora alive. I'm going to like just commit to the mana every turn. And, eventually I'll just start doing things. We'll just see how far it goes.
Yeah.
And I'm getting like 6 counters, 7 counters, 8 counters. And I was like, this is fun in and of itself. This is going to be my game. I don't care what anybody else does. My game, this commander game is going to be keeping this Mystic Remora here. And then I draw a tutor, and I'm like, this is perfect. I'm going to tutor Vampire Hexmage, and I'm going to restart because you sacrifice Vampire Hexmage to remove all counters from target permanent.
Yeah.
And so I can keep the fish alive. And Kyle, anybody who plays with him consistently enough knows, is he has like the best sense of when advantage pieces like have to go. Like when someone else has a Ristic Study in play, he's like, we got to kill it. They're going to draw too many cards. It's going to be too good.
Got to kill it. Got to pay the one.
Yeah,
pay the one.
Pay the one every time. Everybody else at the table is like, no, you can draw cards. I don't care. Like, whatever. I don't care about your Ristic Study. And you're like, but it's so many cards. Like, you're going to get so far ahead.
At one point with this stupid fucking Mystic Remora, at one point I was literally paying 4 for like little dinky spells because I was like, I can't let him draw another card.
Yeah.
I can't. One turn, I literally paid for Mystic Remora twice.
Yeah.
And then he just paid for it and kept it the next turn.
And you were groaning the whole game about it.
I was pissy. I was
And
like,
then-
guys.
And then I can't remember how, but you got wise to my plan with the Vampire Hexmage, and you put your foot down. You're like, no, now we have to like expend.
Now we're killing Alex.
Yeah, now we have to expend tutors to get removal spells for this Mystic Remora. Like I'm committing my whole turn to try and destroy this thing.
Oh my god.
That just speaks to how good Mystic Remora really is.
Love that card.
It's 1 mana.
Yeah.
It's the fish.
It's
And
insane.
who's paying 4 besides Kyle?
Besides, no one.
Ain't no one.
No one.
We gotta talk one day about interaction because that's a whole episode in and of itself.
Yeah.
I think so. Removal and such.
Exactly.
Any final thoughts on the hate deck?
Not really. I mean, by all means, build it, play it. It's fun, but it's one of those decks where you'll play a game and you're like, I know now that I can just put this away and it'll be fine. Mm-hmm. It can live in this box, or I can take it apart, whatever. It had its moment in the sun, and I just don't want to be that player anymore.
It's also really cool because that deck, like for me, I'm a big flashy card player. I like to play big, expensive cards that do big, crazy things, but you have to somehow get to 9 mana, somehow get to 8 mana. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we're playing and you'll just have nothing. And it's like, okay, like I'm not going to attack him. He has nothing. I'll focus on that threat over there. And then the next turn, he top deck, and he just drops Nicol Planeswalker. And it's just like, okay, here's a 4-color deck with no green for ramp, mana rocks everywhere, and just what does it cost? It's an 8 mana Planeswalker. It's the most expensive Planeswalker outside of Ugin, right?
Yeah, it's 8. It's 4 blue, black, red, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that thing says gain control of stuff.
Yeah, just take it.
We not temporarily, just give me it.
Yeah, and I think it's only like 3 turns of doing the plus ability to get ultimate it.
Yeah. Absolutely crazy. No, I love that deck. That was a very fun time to be playing Magic.
Yeah, I agree.
Moving on. Kyle?
You can go first.
Me?
Yeah,
okay.
you can go first.
Well,
I'm still thinking.
I had talked about curses, which I hate. Now I'm going to talk about a different deck, which I loved, but sadly got a little bit bad. So Kumena Merfolk. Kumena is here. Let me bring him up. I'm going to talk about Merfolk quick. The idea of Merfolk is it's just a tribal deck, a lot like Goblins, but it's more like mid-rangey. Mm-hmm. So we have like counter spells and ramp and draw and all of this, and it's all kind of centered around Kumena, which is a 2 mana or 3 mana 2/4, Merfolk Shaman that says tap another untapped Merfolk you control. Kumena can be blocked. Didn't really use that one that much. Tap 3 untapped Merfolk you control. Draw a card. That one goes crazy. I'd argue to say I did that way more than the other one. And then tap 5 untapped Merfolk you control. Put a +1/+1 counter on each Merfolk you control.
Big.
Including Kumena. So here's the thing: is this was Rivals of Ixalan. I forget exactly what the timeline was, but after that, I believe we had Kaladesh, right?
I believe
Ixalan was after Kaladesh, but not that far off.
Okay,
It was about that area within a year.
That's interesting. So they're all the same era. Very importantly, we had Aether Revolt, which gave us Paradox Engine.
Yeah, they were in the same block.
Yeah. So you get into a.
I hate that card.
Yeah. Let's talk about Paradox Engine real quick. Paradox Engine is a 5-mana artifact that says whenever legendary artifact, very important. Whenever you cast a spell, untap each non-land permanent you control. This card is banned. It got banned.
Very fast.
Not very fast, actually. I had it in this
for
deck
a hot minute.
for a while. It was legal for a while.
Okay.
But this was a portion of time where I think Commander wasn't really like being changed a lot, and people were like able to play this deck for a while, like I was. I got to experience combos that
Shouldn't exist.
they shouldn't have happened. Where I was casting a 1-mana Merfolk, tapping all of them to draw a card, bouncing it to my hand, and then tapping the rest of my Merfolk on the battlefield for mana with like Cryptolith or Earthcraft or something like that, and then just play another 1-mana Merfolk and untap all of them. So we net cards, mana, counters, all of that in one turn. Mind you, you can still do a reasonable impression of all of this with Seaborn Muse. It just doesn't happen every time you cast a spell. It's like every turn that happens.
And you would think that every turn is like, wow, we're doing this every turn. No, we're doing this every spell.
Yep. We also had Dramatic Reversal with Exocron Scepter and Muddle the Mixture to find either of them.
Yeah.
This deck was so sweet, so unreasonably sweet, that it did have Paradox Engine. It did get banned. And then after that, I was like, well, I guess I don't want to play this anymore. I don't know. I experienced the dopamine from this deck I think I'm ever going to experience from it.
Yeah, you can't go back.
Yeah. I know how good it was.
Sometimes there's one card that's just like, there's got to be a card that like does this exact thing I wanted to do, right? And it's like, oh, it's Paradox Engine, and now it's banned.
Yep.
And there's never going to be anything closer to it.
And that's, contrary to my Unga Bunga brain wanting it, I think that's a good thing.
I completely agree.
Me being a combo addict, I understand that we shouldn't have things like this be present in the format because they're just like, it goes back to what we were talking about with like with Idris, where you're doing solitaire stuff and it doesn't assuredly kill people. It just makes the game
Go longer.
go long for one person.
Yeah.
And mind you, this wasn't a quick combo. Also, this was like a lot of moving pieces and a lot of value stuff. So if anyone had anything going on, like if they had like Swords to Plowshares, for example, I could just end the whole combo because you could lose Kumena. Yeah, I look back at this deck and think like I would build a version of Merfolk again, but I just know it wouldn't be as fun.
Wouldn't be as good.
Unfairly as that version that I got to play in 2017, around then.
It's a shame having to play Fair Magic.
Yeah, what the hell? 2018. Yeah. What's up with Fair Magic? Who wants to do that?
What's even the point?
What's even the point?
Anywho, I feel like we don't have to harp on this deck too much. I would rebuild a Merfolk deck because the fish archetype has had a lot. We got like the Lord that's also Curse Catcher for all of your Merfolk. That one's really sweet.
There's that new one that also came out. I actually think it might have been the same set. It was just the mono blue one. It says all of your merfolk have Ward 1 before Ward was a thing.
Yeah, Ward 2.
Oh, Ward 2, there you go.
There's also the Merfolk God, which is, I think, pretty good.
That one was really cool.
Sylvan or whatever.
Yeah.
Sylveon, the Pokemon.
Yes.
Yeah. Listen, Merfolk is a cool tribe. The deck that I built wasn't a Merfolk deck inherently. It was a combo deck that was filled with fish.
I just love meta because that style of card is just so appealing. Because it's like, here's a card, and it can do stuff. But it can't just do one thing. It can do two things, but it can also do three things. And each one of those are, I can do something cooler if I have more of them, or I can do something really cool if I have all of them. And they just like stack off each other, and like tapping and untapping is very powerful. Like Vitalize, that's one of my favorite green cards ever. They just untap all your creatures. So how many, it takes 3 Merfolk to draw a card?
Yep.
So if you have 9, you just draw 3 cards, pay 1 mana, untap, and draw another 3 cards.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very cool.
And that's part of why I would want to do this again. I actually feel like this could be a cool tiny leader too, because having half the deck size, you do have to pick and choose, but like there are a certain amount of very good Merfolk in that like archetype. Actually, I say that, I think I'm going to do that.
You should.
I think I'm going to tool around with that. Keep an eye out for tiny leaders deck techs in the future. Quick aside, speaking of, we'll be having more deck techs coming out kind of soon. We need to like batch record a bunch of those and just kind of drop them.
Sit down for a few hours, bulk record.
Yeah. I know Brad has talked about, he sent me a little...
Brad's the only one with a deck tech right now.
Yeah.
We got to get him on there.
He has a setup at his place, so he can
okay, cool.
Yeah.
6 to 6.
Anywho, that's Merfolk.
Closing thoughts?
I miss it. Bring me back.
Bring me back, baby.
Anywho, Kyle?
Oh man. So in the middle of talking before, we don't have any cameras for this time around, but I freaked out. I remembered a deck. And this is a vault deck.
Oh shit.
Ryan, I don't know how much you remember this deck. I know Alex remembers this deck. Who here knows who here remembers Karlov?
God damn it.
Oh man. That's a guy.
Yeah, Karlov is probably one of the sickest Orshov commanders I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Growing up playing Magic with Brad, everyone, they always get like the thing that they get introduced to. The archetype. Like, is it spell casting? Like just a bunch of dumb creatures, tribal, stuff like that. Mine was Soul Sisters. Because I just thought it was the sickest thing in the world. Yeah. You can have a thing that just says whenever a creature enters gain a life, oh, your opponents do it too? Like, let me just gain a bunch of life. And I was playing, at that rate, 60 card. I don't know if it was standard, I don't know if it was modern, I don't know, but it was just 60 card. And I could have multiple of them. And then I found out about Auriok Champion. Imagine having 3 Soul Sisters on the battlefield, and it's like, I'm going to gain 3 every time anyone plays a creature, which is heavily what you do in Magic. And then I get into Commander, and I built an Athreos deck, because Athreos was all about like creatures dying, life gain, life loss. It was so cool. And then out of nowhere, I don't even remember what set it came out of. Was it 20? It wasn't 2016.
2015.
2015.
Yeah.
And it was just like hiding in the Daxos precon. It was just hiding there. And it does something not what Daxos does at all. Like, it was just random. Karlov is 2 mana. It's a white and a black. And he says, whenever you gain life, put 2 +1/+1 counters on Karlov. What's so important about Karlov is his incidental life gain. I can gain 10. Oh my god, that's so sick, but that's just 2 1/1 counters. What if I gain 1 3 times?
6 1/1 counters.
6 1/1 counters. And he has a second ability. This is the ability that really turns Karlov on. I mean, you really forget how broken it is because it doesn't say destroy us as exile. Pay a black and a white, remove 6 +1/+1 counters from Karlov, exile target creature. Yeah, I can't even begin to tell you. You play a Soul Sister on turn 1, and you play Karlov on turn 2, and you pass, and someone plays a creature. I gained a life. Karlov's a 4/4. You play a creature. He's a 6/6. You play 2 creatures, now he's a 10/10. I'm going to go on my turn, I'm going to swing for 10 commander damage, and then exile your commander. exile your best thing. And then you start adding more and more and more incidental life gain, which is all Soul Sisters is, and you bring black into it. And I mean, I remember I had one of those towers for dice. They come with like 18 of them or whatever. Yeah. And I just kept taking them out, and I just kept putting them on Karlov. And it was just like, before I knew it, I had like 24 +1/+1 counters on them. Yeah. And what are you going to do? You're going to touch them? I'll exile your creature. And yeah, that deck was one of those decks that was just so powerful that I was like, I don't even know if I can tune this down, because you play Soul Sisters or you don't. And it's just like, I'm going to play Soul Sisters. And now it's like, anytime I play Secure the Waste, anytime I say, I'm going to make 10 1/1 tokens, Karlov just got 20 counters, 40 counters, 60, like it's, yeah.
Yeah. Really puts into perspective how good Karlov is when a Johnny's Pride Mate, which is a 2/2 cat for 2 that says whenever you gain life, put 1 counter on. That card consistently, whenever it was in standard, was a super duper awesome good deck.
Yeah, it was a menace.
And that was one of the cards where it's like, oh, you need to kill this before it's terrifying. Mind you, this is a life gain aggro deck, so like, we come back to saying commander aggro is tough. Karlov is the kind of card where, no, it's not.
No, it just isn't.
This is a 2 mana 8/8 after 1 turn of doing,
the most basic bare minimum.
Otherwise innocuous things. You think about gain life in that kind of like, oh, this is something you could do to make your time easier to do other things, but like it's not an ends to a means. Giving life gain a way to kill people was always the problem of life gain. Because you can just gain as much life as you want, but people can still kill you through that. There's other ways to win the game. Because the presence of Karlov like existing, you have to respect the life gain that they're doing. Any Soul Sister is immediately like, oh yeah, get rid of that immediately.
Yeah.
We have Suture Priest that makes them lose life otherwise. We have
Soul's Attendant,
yeah.
Ariok Champion, and then Soul's Attendant and Soul Warden. Yeah. So you could easily have 2 to 3 just on the battlefield at any given time, let alone Authority of the Consuls, a Johnny's Welcome. Like, there's so many things to just say whenever a creature enters gain a life. And like, I mean, I can still remember scowls from you, like back at Gamers Guild. Like, what do you think of Karlov?
Because it's so easy to get enough counters, and it's just 2 little old mana to exile whatever you need to.
Yep.
And it's just like every turn you'd exile something, and it's not during your turn. You can do it during my turn.
It's not a tap ability.
It's not a tap ability. You can do it right away. It's, oh man, you are never safe if it's on the battlefield.
Yeah.
You give it 1 turnaround, maybe 2, and like anything that is a problem for Kyle is just gone. And it's exiled too. You can't.
The exile is just icing on the fucking cake, and it's just like, ugh.
Yeah.
And it also panders back to my, not like mindset when I play Commander, but one of my favorite things in Commander is low CMC legendaries. Yes. Because if they're a low CMC, not only can you get them out early, but if they die, you can play them again. And if they die, you can play them again. If you're facing someone with a 6 cost commander, I can play my commander 3 times for your 1. And that's more removal that you had to expel to get rid of it for me to just play it again.
Yeah. Not even to mention tiny leaders. Like, none of us have them.
I'm thinking about doing it.
Like, jeez.
Seems bonkers.
I just thought of it. I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Especially because tiny leaders is a very like aggro format, and you could play anything that says your creature, like Authority of the Consuls, they enter tapped. So now my creatures can now get in along with you gaining me land. It's just like, you don't even necessarily have to use the second ability in Tiny Leaders, because it's good to get, you can get rid of someone's commander, which is very, very powerful, but like, the more counters you have on it, the faster it is to kill someone. And
yeah. Karlov, and this is a high praise, Karlov is good for the same reason that Murktide Regent is good. Because you just get to have your game plan, and then also have a 2 mana 10/10 on top of it. That just gets to ruin the game for your opponent, because they either get rid of it when it's when it's small, not like Murktide Regent, but you get rid of it when it's small, or it sits there and it kills you.
Yeah.
period.
Or you just don't get rid of it.
Yeah.
You can't get rid of it.
This was back before I was like, I'm not like a super political player. I'm just a player that really likes to like focus on interaction. I feel like there's never enough interaction at a table. There could always be more. But like there would be times where like I'd look at Brendan and he'd be playing his dinosaurs deck. And I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna play Karlov. You're gonna play a million bajillion dinosaurs. I'm just gonna gain all the life off your dinosaurs. If you don't look at me, I will not exile any of your creatures and I'll just reap the rewards of what you're doing. And lo and behold, now I have a partner and I can just take Karlov and make him bigger and bigger and bigger. And as the deal, he doesn't get rid of Karlov. I don't get rid of any of his scary threats, which are exiled. Yeah. And I just go off. And I can make that with anyone.
Yeah.
Just super cool.
Yeah.
It's like, politics are really hard in Commander, but like when you loom for 2 mana to say you're not going to get to do what you want to do, that's a bargaining chip. People will say, okay, I will succumb and do what you want me to do to keep my commander, to keep this, to keep that.
Exactly.
So,
yep.
Yeah, I miss Karlov. Of all the decks that I can think of in the vault, Karlov is probably the one that would come back out.
Word.
In either Tiny Leaders or Commander. If I did it in Commander, I would finally do, I mean, you guys know me, I love companions. I really think any, yeah, you know exactly what we're going with this. Any, like, extra little, like, caveat that you have to build, like a deck restriction, like, that you have to build, I'll just finally do Karlov Luris.
Karlov Luris.
I've
seen Soul Sisters.
I've seen a I've seen a Luris Companion EDH deck where all 99 cards are 2 CMC or less, and you think it's a restriction. You think it's a downside. You turn that negative into a big old positive.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
It's crazy. Because now you just get any the Soul Sisters that they kill you, just get it back.
Yeah.
Throw Karlov in the graveyard, get him back.
Yeah.
Like,
wow.
but Luris is banned in Tiny Leaders, so we, as a companion and as a commander, so we will not have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Commander maybe. But.
Oh no. Darn. Well, we are not a little over. We're over an hour. I think we will probably call it here.
We all got 2 decks in.
Yeah, we had a good episode. Real quick, do the outro shit. If you aren't already and you're listening to this, please join us on Discord. We have one, MTG Homebrew Network, where we talk about cards we like and we post sick art and decks and even promote your own content if you make YouTube stuff. Real quick, I want to say shout out to Elder Drunken Highlander, I would call it our sister YouTube channel.
Yeah.
We're really close with them. They're great. I edit videos for them. Definitely go give them a follow on their Discord and there's, I was going to say SoundCloud, what the hell? Their YouTube.
They make good content.
Yeah. They're awesome. Josh, Austin, and Kevin.
Good people.
Killing it.
Yeah.
Good people.
What else? If you're interested, I put music on SoundCloud. That's kind of where it came from. All the music that exists in our videos and our podcasts and stuff, I put on a SoundCloud. So if you want to listen to that, I was also thinking about making a those YouTube videos that are like music to lay down and relax to or something like that.
Oh yeah.
I was thinking of just making a compilation of all the stuff I've made and calling it like deck music to sleeve your decks to or something like that.
I like
That's amazing.
I like that
a lot.
Yeah, I wanna cut that together. So keep an eye out for that. Yeah, we have some deck text coming up soon. No spoilers, but pretty spicy stuff.
I already know my next deck tech.
Nice.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, good. So we'll get those out. One more thing. Giveaway. We have some proxies to give away. We got the Cycle of Fetch Lands.
Woo.
So if you want those, put in the Discord. We have the secret code channel. First person to put...
Brad is awesome.
Brad is awesome. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Shout outs to Brad. We'll get that guy going very soon. If you put Brad is awesome in the secret code Discord, I will send you 10 fetch land proxies. Yeah. Anywho, I think that's it for us. Thank you for listening. If you're listening to us now and you listened all the way through, that's super awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a nice day, y'all.
Try to stay good in the heat.
Yeah.
If you have it,
Yeah.
because the heat's pretty bad where we are.
Yeah, stay cool.
Bye.
Bye.
Later.